Welcome back, everyone. And our next guest is the CEO of Rincon Salvadoreño, that has serviced the Jamaica Queens community for over 40 years and provided authentic home-cooked Salvadorian dishes. She joins us today to speak about how her restaurant has thrived over 4 decades and much more. So please welcome Miss Elena Calderon Barcenes. Hola, Elena.
Hola, mucho gusto. Thank you so much for having me a guest here and
No,
to be able to share a bit of my story.
excellent. No, and thank you for joining us today. We should uh, let people know they're seeing you over Skype, but we're thrilled to have this conversation with you today. Thank you so much. So, for many of our viewers, they would like to learn more about how your story and how the Rincon Salvadoreño Restaurant. So let's dive into this. So, can you tell us about your background, where you're from, what led you to become a business owner, and all the details?
Great. Yes. So my name is Elena Calderon Barcenes, and I became a business owner actually 27 years ago. I'm originally from El Salvador. I grew up, I migrated to the United States when I was 8 years old in the state of Minnesota. There I received my education, and later on I moved to New York with my husband, and he was the founder of Rincon Salvadoreño Restaurant. We're the first Salvadorian restaurant in New York. And as you have stated, we've been in the community for 43 years. And unfortunately, 27 years ago, he passed away, and that's when I became a business owner overnight. So the good thing about it is that um, I wasn't afraid. I there was a lot of challenges, but I knew that I was excited. I was very excited to be part of the community and to actually take the restaurant to where it is right now. So that's how I became a business owner.
Excellent, and that's quite inspirational. But how did it wind up in Jamaica, Queens?
Jamaica Queens, we there was a very high, and there still is a very high Hispanic community in Jamaica. And at that time, there weren't any Salvadorian restaurants, but the community has always been, like I mentioned, there's a lot of Central American, South American customers that live in the area. So that's it. Actually, when he bought the business was originally owned by someone from El Salvador, and they had it for 2 months. They had an emergency, and they had to leave the country. So that's how my husband started the business.
Got
We
it.
had back then, 43 years ago, we only had 4 tables. So it was very, very small as to what we have now.
Okay, so fast forward today. Your restaurant faced the threat of closing during the pandemic. How did you manage to keep it open? Because we know the restaurants were, severely hit with all these restrictions from COVID. How did you manage to stay open and thrive afterwards?
Well, let me be honest with you. Actually, I closed the restaurant for 8 months. And the reason I closed is because I meditated and I saw how bad the situation really was. And we are a sit down restaurant. Back then, that's all we did. It was our to go orders were very limited because our customers really enjoyed coming to the restaurant. And I knew that with only orders to go, I was not going to survive simply because my customers were from outside the area as well. Um, and I just didn't feel that it was a good idea for me to keep it and continue struggling. So what I decided to do instead was I used 8 months to really educate myself. So I started doing webinars. I started assisting all types of webinars. For 8 months, I truly, truly educated myself outside the box. I started looking for brands. I applied to all kinds of brands. I did networking, and that is because we were only hit by the COVID. COVID was the cherry on top for us. Jamaica Queens is going through a great development. And I started my journey started back in 2017. 2017, I lost my parking. We had street closings. So when COVID hit, that was like the last straw. So I decided to take my business and to think outside the box and really look for opportunities to make my restaurant better. And that's what I did. And that's how I restarted the restaurant after closing it for 8 months.
Okay, you had mentioned at the top that you applied for grants. Can you share more about that?
Absolutely. In matter of fact, I am a recipient of DoorDash. This is the latest, the newest one that and I applied this currently. Because when another thing that I wanted to share is that I'm also a graduate from Goldman Sachs 10,000 business program. And I graduated in December, which was a phenomenal program for myself. I learned to really pivot my business. I learned about finance. I learned about different things. And DoorDash, it's right now. We're almost finished with the program, and it just gives you tools to take your business to a different level. And like I said, I did that one. I did Grubhub. I've done city ones. Believe me, I have applied. I worked, there was one in particular, it was to feed the nonprofit organizations in the community. And that was through the city, our RP program. I did 2 of those. So with all the grants, I was able to sustain myself, even though I was closed, and I was able to also keep my employees.
Yeah. Can you share a bit more of your involvement with DoorDash? How is that relationship?
It's fantastic. I was not, um, I didn't do a lot of go orders. So when I reopened the restaurant, I started using the different platforms. And DoorDash in particular, we have grown a lot with DoorDash. In this particular program, we touch different bases. For example, it's divided into different weeks. I believe it's like 8 weeks in total. Each week we touch different bases. For example, we started with the financial part of it. There's a legal part of it. There's branding of your food. There's how to hire in employee retentions, creating a right kind of menu, how to describe a good menu, and then also marketing. And I also learned a lot about sustainability, how you can improve.
Yeah.
And
so all very valuable lessons. You know, obviously they came in handy at the time, but I want to learn more about your restaurant. So what are the most popular dishes there? If I ever want to come, to that area and visit your restaurant, what would you recommend?
So we are a home-cooked meal, and our recipes, like I said, they're just authentic from El Salvador, and our popular dishes are our carne asada, it's our steak, and that's served with casamiento, which is beans and rice mixed together. And we also have our seafood soup. Our seafood soup, I still have customers that have left the New York area, and they still come and visit us for our seafood soup. Mm-hmm. Our tamales, we are absolutely known for our pupusas. Our pupusas is a corn tortilla. It's filled with different ingredients. And from El Salvador, if you say El Salvador equals pupusas. Everybody loves pupusas.
Could you remind us the name of the restaurant with your website so people can check you out and look at the offerings?
Absolutely. So my restaurant is Rincon Salvadoreño Restaurant. We're located at 92-15, 149 Jamaica, Queens. And our website is www.rinconsalvadoreño.us.
Excellent. And as a Latina in the food business, what advice would you give to the next generation looking to open up their own restaurant? You know, right now we have a lot of people interested in being chefs and entrepreneurs and all of this.
Yes. And one of the things that I learned, even though I became a business owner 27 years ago, and honestly, I would have to say that after the pandemic, that's when I grew to a different level with my business. And the reason for that is preparation. You need to prepare yourself. You need to really know each step, how to do it correctly. Also, it is very, very important to get involved with the community. Know your agencies that are around you. And those agencies really, really support small businesses
Yeah.
like myself. For
That,
example, I work with all the chambers, especially Queens Chamber of Commerce. I work tremendously a lot with Greater Jamaica. They have been godsend for me. I was able to get financing available, and these resources are very important because most
yeah.
banks,
Okay.
traditional,
Well,
they don't give
Elena,
you.
this is definitely a lot of information, a lot of learning lessons for everyone. I just like to thank you for joining us today, Elena. You were wonderful, and we hope to visit your restaurant sometime soon, of course. You know, Jamaica Queens, Rincon Salvadoreños. So if you'd like to learn
Yes,
more, you can follow her on Instagram. You can visit her website and see what else they offer. And you can email her as well at eqcalderon@aol.com and visit rinconsalvadoreñonewyork.com. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. I'd like to thank our guests, Jose and Elena, for joining us today. You, the viewers as well, for tuning in and hearing all these magnificent stories. I invite you to keep following BronxNet TV for continued coverage. And if you're not a member of the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, you can always visit us as www.hispanicchamber.nyc. Once again, that's www.hispanicchamber.nyc. You can also engage with us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, at New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, all spelled out. And I'll see you next time for another episode of Meetings of the Minds in partnership with BronxNet TV. And I'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.